All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. And the goal for this workshop is to talk about building wealth through owning real estate and building your portfolio. My name is Olga St. Pierre. I am a licensed real estate agent as well as an investor with the experience of over 10 years in the industry. And what I wanted to do really is to share with you is that if I wanted to get started again and I said, okay, I would like to start investing in real estate, where would I start now? So I sat down and I thought about my map, my experience, where I have been through in the last 10 to 12 years. Where would I start all over again? Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about. So I just want to caution you that everything that I'm sharing with you today is my personal opinion based on my own personal experiences. If you have any questions with regards to any legal matters, anything that has to do with finances or accounting, I definitely encourage you to speak with your own team of professionals to help you. All right, so if you have any questions as we're going through this workshop, feel free to either raise your hand or to unmute yourself and ask the question. We're also going to have a question.
What is wrong with you? Lunch is L-U-N-C-H.
And then you can also type in your question at the end as well. And if you guys are listening in, if you don't mind just muting yourself to make sure that everyone can hear everything. So I appreciate that. So I usually ask why everyone is here, but because this is virtual, it's a little bit more complicated. So I hope that you're here because you want to learn a little bit more about building your wealth for investing in real estate. And here's what we're going to talk about today, okay? Why are we even talking about real estate, okay? Where I would suggest that we can start, different investing options, financing options, that's always a big question for everyone. And then at the end, if there's any questions that you have, I'm more than happy to answer for you. So why are we talking about real estate? What I want you to consider is the graph in the left-hand corner of the presentation. And this is actually from the book by Robert Kiyosaki called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. This is one of the books that I strongly recommend that you read, and that's on the reading list that's going to be included at the end of this workshop for you as part of your homework and to help you put your action plan together. The goal is to get from E to I, right? So as you finish school and you get ready and you head out into the world, you become an employee, right? You get a job and you work for someone else, okay? That's pretty much 95% of our population. You go to work, and then in return for the work that you do, you get a paycheck, okay? Then you decide that you may want to become a business owner and you become self-employed. That means that you have people working for you, right? And that's pretty much most of the people as well as the employees, okay? And a lot of the times is that if you are a business owner or you're self-employed, if you go on vacation, a lot of the times the work may continue a little bit, but a lot of the decision-making still depends on you, right? And some of the work may stop. What I'm asking you and encouraging you today is to focus on becoming an investor. Investor is someone who owns the investment, and it's really only 5% of the population who are in that quadrant, which means that if you go on vacation, you can stop working and those investments are going to work for you. Here's the definition of the financial wealth. So let's take a look. Why are we talking about and why I believe in real estate so much? Financial wealth is the unearned income to finance your life mission without having to work, okay? Did you know that 90% of all billionaires today became so through investing in real estate? So I thought that was a very interesting graphic, and that's why I included it in the workshop today. So why real estate? Number one, it is accessible. Anyone can buy it. I truly believe in my real estate work that's part of my residential services that I offer to our clients is that anyone with a plan can become a homeowner. Real estate does appreciate over time. It does increase in value, okay? It's leverageable. You can buy it on the margin at a discount, and then you can borrow against the equity. And we'll talk a little bit about that because that's one of the strategies where you can get your financing for your investment properties. The real estate is rentable. You can buy it today and you can rent it out tomorrow for sure if you plan for it. Real estate is improvable. You can paint, you can do a little bit of improvement in the home, and it will definitely increase in value. It is deductible, depreciable, deferrable, all of those great tax benefits you can check with your accountant on. What I can tell you is that in my residential practice, if we have clients who are single and they have a really good job and they make good money, it is strongly recommended for them, instead of renting, for them to buy, so that way they can reduce their tax bracket and reduce the amount of taxes that they pay on their tax return every year. And, which is important, real estate is stable. Okay? It is not like a stock market where it's jumping up and down just about every day. It is slow to rise, and it's also slow to decline. And this is important when you are working on investments and you're building for your future. And of course, real estate is livable, right? We own our homes and we are growing our investment and we're growing our equity for our future. Real estate cannot be lost or stolen, nor can it be carried away. Purchased with common sense, paid in full, and managed with reasonable care. According to Franklin Roosevelt, it is just about the safest investment in the world. I thought that was a neat perspective, so that's why I included that in here. All right, so where to next? Here are some basics for you. Here's what I want you to consider. We're going to be looking at a triangle, right? You have three sides that support your system, support your network: criteria, terms, and network, okay? So number one, it is critical for you to start by learning and absorbing. And what I'm encouraging you to do is decide on a couple of different avenues of some paths of real estate investments that excite you, okay? So if you think of a chair, the chair has 4 legs, and it has to have 4 legs in order to be stable. So what I'm encouraging you to do is decide, when you start doing your research, and figure out those avenues that make you excited to get up every morning and get moving and do this day in and out to help you build your wealth. Then you need to decide on your criteria and terms. This is very important. You decide what you're comfortable with, you work on your budget, and you stick to it no matter what. And I'll give you a couple examples as we go from my own personal experience. You also have to work on creating a network. A network of those people that you can rely on to help you with advisement, financial advisement, accounting advisement, contractors, and other people that will help you and be your foundation in your planning and in your projects. Then you need to put an action plan together, right? That's when kind of like everything comes together and you have a plan, and that's the plan that you hang on at your desk, and that's the plan that you choose to follow and focus on. And then, yes, it's getting to work. Here are some bits about real estate investing that I hear just about every day. I don't need to be an investor because my job is going to take care of me and I don't really need any financial wealth. Well, I can tell you for a fact that you can have your job tomorrow, and then tomorrow they're going to give you a pink slip and you're out of the job, right? It can happen anytime. There's no guarantee. Well, I just can't do it. Well, that's not true. Okay, everyone can become an investor. You just have to educate yourself and figure out what you're comfortable with and what really makes you happy in doing. Investing is complicated. The reason people think that it's complicated is because there's so much information out there. So when you try to look at different resources, you get frustrated because there's just so much information, you get overwhelmed. And that's why I'm encouraging you and advising you just to focus on a couple of things, and that's it. You focus on a couple of things and you get very, very good at doing them. And once you become a pro and you know how things work, it is not complicated. You just have to stick to your numbers and your plan. Investing is risky. I'm going to lose money. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. You can lose money. There's no guarantee. That's why you're investing, and investing does have risks. However, if you have and you stick to your plan and your budgeting, you can minimize your risks. All good investments are taken. That is not true. I can tell you that in the last few years, even though the market has been hot, there's actually a shortage of homes on the market. I see people every day buying and flipping and buying homes and holding them for long-term investments. So they're out there. You just have to keep looking, right? This is something that you will have to be doing on a regular basis. I will have Social Security and my retirement check. I'm all set. I'm not sure if all of us are going to have Social Security and retirement when we are ready to do so. So I encourage you to consider real estate investing as your foundation of building your wealth to make sure that you take care of yourself when the time comes for your retirement. All right, the basics. Where do we start? The graph on the left, where you have your trial and error and that very, very funky zigzaggy line, it is absolutely 100% truth is how your path is going to be. It almost feels like, to me, as an investor, you take 3 steps forward and then you take 2 steps back. And it feels like you've gotten nowhere, right? You've got nothing accomplished. However, you do have that one step that is small, tiny steps. It keeps moving you and propelling you forward and forward. So that's how you choose to look at it. And I can tell you that the best lessons that I have learned from the mistakes that I have made was when you took those 2 steps back and you realize what happened, you analyze, you figure out where you made mistakes and errors, you learn from it, so that way you won't do it again. And those are truly the best lessons to be learned. Number 1, I would suggest is that you join a local investors group. There are plenty of options out there. Now, a lot of things are on social media. The biggest group that I belong to that is almost like a tri-state area is called DIG. It's Diversified Investors Group, and they do meet once a month on the last Thursday of the month. It is $200 a year to join, and when I joined in the beginning, I found it to be invaluable. You get to be almost like a fly on the wall if you don't know anyone or you're just starting out. It's a great way to network. It's a great way to meet other investors and people with financing and money who are in your local area, and just start asking questions. Right? So when you're there, it's pretty much open book. If you have questions, there's going to be people there to help you and answer all of those questions. I'm happy to get you to attend your first meeting for free. So just let me know if that would be something of interest to you, and I can help you and get that set up. You can also check out social media. You can also check meetups. And at the end of the workshop, I'll have some other suggestions for you. Visit biggerpockets.com. That place is huge. You can get lost. And I found it invaluable to me, and I still do. I found it very much valuable to me back in 2018 when my husband and I purchased our latest investment property in Orlando. I was looking for contractors and connections there, and I was able to find a forum on that website that strictly has to do with investors in Florida, and that at least put me on the right track. I figured out where I can get some more additional information. Podcasts are huge right now. Here's a couple of suggestions for you. And once you start listening to them, when you're in the car is when I encourage you to listen to podcasts. Maybe have a small notebook with you. You can pick and choose different topics and subjects and see who are some of the bigger investors who do what you want to do on a regular basis, and follow those people. And I have some suggestions for you as well at the end. Here are your 4 legs of chair. Let's talk about what you can do. What are some of your options for investing? The first one that is most common that you hear is flipping, right? That's when you buy a home, you renovate it, do some cosmetic upgrades, maybe something more extensive, and then you put it back on the market after 45 to 60 days. Buy and hold. That means that you're actually buying a home and you are not going to sell it. You hold on to it for investment strategy. And here's a couple of options for you. It could be a regular long-term tenant where they sign a 1-year or 2-year lease, and then you just collect your monthly rent. A variation of that is college rentals, where you rent out to college students. This is something that I started with. Short-term vacation rentals, that's your Airbnb, your vacation rental by owners. Multifamilies, if you have the ability to buy a duplex, triplex, this is great. You can even live in one and rent out the other units. Land development, if you want to get into new construction where you can buy a piece of land and then build a house on it. Commercial, shopping centers, etc. Mobile homes, tax liens and notes where you actually don't own physical real estate, you own a note. Wholesaling and tons more, right? I didn't even go into details on other things. What I can tell you is that what I know very well, and this, what I chose to focus on in my investing is flipping. I had a college rental, and right now what I choose to focus on 100% is short-term vacation rentals. That is my bread and butter. This is what I know very well, and I am very good at it. Our first investment property that we bought in 2007 was right at the bottom of the market in New Jersey. We wanted to flip the house, and it took us a very long time to renovate it because it was our first try. And what we ended up doing is renting it and converting it to a college rental, right? So we had plan A is flip, plan B, if we're not making enough money, we're going to turn it into college rental. You know, in retrospect, I should have taken the $20,000 or $30,000 that we thought we were going to make from that flip and move on if I knew how long the recession was going to take. However, we didn't know at the time. So in turn, we turned that house into a college rental in New Jersey and had a very successful run with making money and also learning how to be landlords of college rentals. That was actually the first home that we owned, and we sold that home back in November because I decided that that's all I wanted to do at that time, and I wanted to take the money from that property and focus on other endeavors. Currently, we own 3 homes. 2 of them are in the Poconos by the lake. And the 3rd home that we own that we bought in 2018 is in Orlando because I really wanted to have a piece of the Disney market, which is a lot of the times is recession proof. People come from all over the world. And I thought that was going to be a good investment. So we have 3 properties that we focus on renting out for short term, which are vacation rentals. So any questions about that, I'm more than happy to answer because I know that business inside and out. Decide on criteria and terms. This is extremely important, and I do encourage you to do this in your beginning process. And what I mean by that is that, number 1, you need to create 2 budgets. Your first budget is your personal budget, okay? Depending if you plan on having maybe your loved one or your spouse still working and supporting your family, and then you're going to be investing full-time, or you're going to be doing this part-time, you want to make sure that your personal budget is taken care of, which means that the things that you absolutely need to live on, right? Your mortgage, your food, your utilities, all those things get paid on a monthly basis. And then you need to create a second budget, which will be for your investment goals, okay? So you need to have the funds in order to buy the home, which is down payment plus closing costs. And depending on your strategy, if you're going to flip your home, you need to decide where the money for the renovations is going to come from. Are you going to have that money saved? Are you going to borrow that money? And then you make a decision also on what would be your criteria. Like, for example, when we focused on purchasing a home in Orlando, my husband is the one who does all the budgeting, the spreadsheets, and he kind of works backwards and tells us our parameters, right? The things that we really should not be working around of. So what we decided was that our budget on a monthly basis, because we would have to have a mortgage, was going to be no more than $2,000 a month. And that would include my monthly mortgage payment, my utilities, and also HOA, right? Homeowners Association payment, because most of the homes in the Orlando area have HOAs. So when we work backwards to figure out what that $2,000 a month is going to buy us in terms of a purchase price, our target and our ceiling was going to be $270,000. That was the max. So that was our criteria, right? So we said, okay, we're looking for a home in a small community with the HOA fee of no more than $200 a month, depending on what that HOA fee covers. And that's what we're looking for. We did find a house in 2 months that we were shopping, and our purchase price was $264,000. So we did stay under our budget, which was very happy. The other thing that we had to consider was how were we buying this, okay? So this is not in here, so I encourage you to write this down. One of the best ways to buy an investment property is, number one, you move your own personal residence. Let's say you started out in a small rancher or in a small cape, and now you're ready to move on. So you buy your next home as your new primary residence, and then the first home that you're in now is you don't sell it, you convert it into your first investment property, right? And this is one of the best ways to do this, okay? Because when you buy it as a primary residence, you get the best price and the best terms for your loan, for your mortgage. The second best way to do it is you buy your property as a vacation, as a second home. And that's what we did for Florida. Nobody asked us. Everybody assumed that we were going to buy it as a second vacation, as a vacation home, right? Because it was in Florida. And I said, that's great. If you're buying it as a vacation home, you do need to put a little bit more money down. However, it is still the best terms and for the best price. Next, what you have to make sure is that your financial health is extremely, extremely well planned. Your credit score is critically important to make sure that you get the best terms and you have the most amount of programs for financing available to you. You really should be shooting for your credit score above 700, as higher to 800 as possible. The higher your credit score is, the lower your interest rate is going to be, the lower down payment you can have. Okay, so if you do not know where your credit score is, I encourage you to pull your own credit report. You can do it for free from all 3 agencies once a year. So if you were to space it out and get your first report in your first quarter from Equifax, and then the second quarter you pull it from TransUnion, and then the third quarter you pull it from the third agency, you will space it out and you'll make sure that, number one, your credit score is in good shape, and number two, there's nothing suspicious and nothing on your credit report that should not be there. Because what happens is if you find something on your credit report that is a mistake, it will take at least 30, sometimes 60 days for that mistake to be corrected by the credit agency. And in the meantime, that means that your investment goals and plans have to be put on hold until you finance this where they need to be to make sure that you can get the financing ready to go. Your personal reserves. I can guarantee you that you won't be able to borrow 100% of what you buy, okay? The lender is going to want for you to have some skin in the game. So you need to have some savings. One of the best ways you can do that is to be able to put a line of credit on your primary residence. If you're able to do that, that is one of the easiest ways to get access to cash you can use for your down payment. You can use it for renovations. Think of a line of credit as a secured checking account. You will literally have a checkbook and you can write checks from that account, and you don't start making payments or being charged interest until you actually pull the money out of that account, okay? So for financing, I already touched upon on the line of credit. If you already have an investment property, there are some banks that will allow you to put a line of credit on your investment property as well. So let me know if you have questions about that or you need recommendations for a few banks. I'm more than happy to share. Conventional loans are usually the easiest ways. If you're buying a second home or a vacation home, you can put down as little as 10% and make that purchase. Just remember that when you're buying something, you have 2 pools of expenses. One is your down payment, and the second one is going to be your closing costs. And depending on where you're buying and what you're buying, those will vary. There are special fix and flip loans that are available. There are a couple of lenders that specialize in those. Remember, they're going to be higher rate and also higher closing costs. They charge points up front, and 1 point is typically a percentage of the loan that you're borrowing. Hard money lenders are also available. The reason why it's called hard money is because they strictly focus on lending to investors for their projects. There are quite a few companies that are out there. You have to be prepared with your budget. You have to know your numbers because they're going to ask you all of those questions. Private financing is great. If you have friends or family members who are attorneys, who are doctors, a lot of the times those professions make excellent private financiers. They have extra money, they don't mind making extra money, and what they do is you make an agreement with them and they become your silent partners. They provide you the funds to purchase and to renovate, and you can either pay interest rate to them or you can potentially split the profit, and it will be an interest-free loan until you buy the property, renovate, and then you sell it. And then per agreement, you disperse the money to yourself and to your partner. Definitely when you're working with people like that, you need to have an attorney to draw up an agreement where everything is spelled out on how everything is going to work, and make sure that there is no misunderstanding because it comes down to money. Traditional 203K renovation loans, there are loans out there that you can actually borrow money to use for renovations. They're not very popular for investment purposes. However, they are available a lot of the times for buyers who may want to buy a home renovated, right? Live in it for a little bit of time and then potentially move on to their plan of action of selling that home, buying another primary residence, and now having investment properties. Self-directed financing is one of the biggest secrets in our industry. Did you know that you can use your individual retirement accounts as sources for financing? I encourage you to check out Camel Plan. This is one of the companies that some investors that I know use for self-directed financing. You are able to transfer your IRA funds into a Camel Plan IRA plans, right? So you can't, if your current account is with Vanguard or Schwab, for example, you're not going to be able to use those funds for investment purposes. There are some strict IRS regulations. There are companies like Kama that are strictly handling this. There's very strict rules on who can do the work and how everything works. And let's say if you're going to flip the home and had your IRA buy the house, any money that you make from your flip goes right back to the IRA account. So I encourage you to head on to their website. They have tons of webinars and videos to watch to educate you on how that works. However, it is a great way. Let's say if you left your employer a couple of years ago and you transferred your 401k plan out of that employer's account, you can actually transfer that money and put it with CAMA, and it's going to become a self-directed 401k. So definitely check them out for sources of funds. Where to find your investments? This is one of the most common topics that I hear. I can tell you that the first home that we purchased that became our college rental after flipping, I found myself when I drove around the target neighborhood. I wanted to see if I could find a home in the particular neighborhood that I really liked, and that's what I literally did. I had a map on my lap, and I drove around the streets, and I wrote down the numbers of the houses that looked like they may need work. And then what I did is I called the township tax assessor's office, and I asked them if the tax bill is being sent to their home somewhere else. That's public information. And then I sent letters to everyone. I got a couple of calls, but they were like, well, why would I sell your home? And I said, well, I'm interested in buying a home in your neighborhood. And are you interested in selling? And they said, no, we're not. And I said, well, thank you for letting me know. I appreciate it. And then one seller called, whose house we did buy. That was our first investment property. That home had the second floor fire damage. So it was completely covered in vines. It was very sad looking, which for us investors, the sadder it looks, the better it is. And they said, yes, you know what, we're not going to renovate it. We don't really want to deal with it. We are interested in selling. So the first property that I found was actually a private deal, which is one of the best, which means that no one else knew about it. So that's how we purchased our first home. Here are some suggestions for you. I did put in driving target areas in here. I also put down probate when someone passes away is a way to locate potentially. You can also do, sometimes when people pass away, they will hold estate sales on the Fridays and Saturdays. Some people have explored those as potential sources. Foreclosures and bank-owned homes, I can tell you, those are not as easy as they sound. Some of the gurus out there would say, oh, you can definitely buy foreclosure, you can buy it at a good deal. Based on my work in my residential practice with some investors who did focus on bank-owned homes and foreclosures, you have to put a lot of offers to get that one out of hundreds that will actually make sense and that will stick. So it's something definitely good to check out, but I'm not going to suggest that as a very, very good source. It could be one of the sources. Estate tax sales, bankruptcy, evictions sometimes work, divorces, direct mail. Some people will mail flyers, and I've gotten them. You probably have gotten them where saying, "We'll buy your house." Who can help you find your investments? You can work with agents like myself who get access to listings on our multiple listing service as soon as they come on the market. Absentee owners, these are the people that own another home, but they may live maybe out of state, right? And this is a good example of what happened back in the last crash that we had back in 2007, 2008, when a lot of homeowners were underwater because the market dropped a lot more than what they put down on their original mortgages. And if they were not able to sell and bring money to the settlement, they were forced to become landlords. They were forced to be able to rent out their homes just so they could move out to their next destination because they were relocating and they had to do it. Other landlords, maybe they're tired of having investment properties and they're ready to move and just get rid of their portfolio. Bank officers, attorneys, your allied resources team. What I can tell you is that the best sources of good opportunities are going to be people that you talk to network on a regular basis. Like your allied resources team could be, maybe some of your friends who are contractors, some who deliver heating oil. Ask them to be your eyes and ears in the community and see if anyone is struggling, need help, and we want to get out. And this is where we come to talking about building a network. Having a network of support and people that will help you in your endeavor is very important. Your immediate circle are going to be your partners. If you are partner with someone for private financing, your mentors, and they can be one-on-one, or it can be the people that you follow in your investors group or somebody you follow on social media that will provide you the advice and kind of keep you focused on your budgeting and on your goals. The next circle are the most important people to help you make sure that you are staying on track and you are compliant with the laws and the accounting, right? These are the agents that you work with, other investors, accountants, your property managers, attorneys, your financial advisor. And then the next circle, the widest one, are the people that will support you in working in your projects and help you, and also hopefully will be the sources of potential leads. What I encourage you to do with those people is have a conversation with them, let them know what you're looking for, right? And just remember that it always works both ways. Means that if you ask to help them, you need to also ask them, how can I help you? So if it is a contractor or handyman that you're working with, you need to also advertise them and promote their business and give them business and just periodically remind them and say, hey, I'm here for you. If you hear for anyone who may be thinking about making a sale or needs to get out of their home, could you please let me know to see if maybe what I offer may be a right fit for them. Well, it all comes down to this. And this is actually a tip. This is a screenshot from a investor that I follow on Instagram. His name is Richard Garcia. Okay, he actually puts out very interesting content, and he's young and he's very much inspiring. So he's one of the people I would suggest you also check out, right? So his recommendations, again, is don't try to learn everything, just learn one or two strategies very well, which is what I mentioned earlier. Make sure you don't over leverage. You have to run your numbers and make sure that it makes sense. I see many investors saying, oh my God, I just have to go and buy something. No, you don't. If you go a year without buying something because nothing fits your budget, it is better not to own something than own something that you're not going to be able to sleep over because you're losing money. Focus on one property at first, but work on building a collection. That's right, you work on one property at a time. Connect and build with other investors, and you learn from their mistakes. Absolutely could not agree more than that. And don't be afraid to invest in yourself and reduce your learning curve. It is very much important, you learning from others and writing down the mistakes that they have made, so that way you can avoid making them and losing money, okay? And again, just what he said, be prepared for the long haul. This is not a get rich quick plan. It will take time for you to find the right properties that fit your plan, your desires, and your interests. Here we go. Where to next? Here are a couple of books that I recommend that you pick up. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I already mentioned to you. Millionaire Next Door and Millionaire Real Estate Investor by Carrie Keller. What I like about the third book is that he also provides you with spreadsheets to help you do the renovation budget. Right, if you're evaluating to see if this property that you're targeting for purchase may make sense for you as a flip, there are spreadsheets to help you figure out and work backwards and see if that property actually makes sense to buy. Join an investors club, find some other places on like social media, Facebook, on meetups. Check out other websites, podcasts, YouTube videos. Here's a couple of people to follow and get started. And definitely, you need to plan and do your foundational work and your budgets. Without having a budget, you can't buy anything because you don't have the parameters and the guidelines to help you in your planning before you purchase. Here's a couple of examples for you that I wanted to share. We were talking about people not able to find any deals. What I did is I just found a couple of things that are right online from someone that I know. He's a licensed real estate agent. However, what he does full time is flipping homes. So I just pulled a couple of the homes that he renovated and he sold. I just wanted to give you some examples. And this is just me looking in on his project from the outside, right? And making some assumptions. So the first property on Chestnut Street was purchased in July 1st at a sheriff's sale, right? So that is buying a foreclosure. This is one of the strategies that you can use in your chair. And they bought it for $125,000. They listed in October. So they were holding that home for about 4 months. That's how long potentially it took them to renovate it, right? I don't have the details. They sold it for $235,000 under contract in 6 days, right? And that went into settlement on November 1st. So roughly for holding and repair cost, it was 4 months. They sold it for about $109,000, just to give you an idea. That is not how much money they made. This is how much money they grossed, right? So you'll have to subtract from it the budget on the actual renovation cost and their budget for holding costs, paying transfer taxes, and so forth. The second example, Berkshire Road, was purchased in March as a bank-owned property, right? So that was actually, it wasn't purchased as a sheriff's sale, it was purchased from, being listed online for sale. They bought it for $163,000. Listed for sale in August, so they held it for about 6 months, and they listed it for $300,000. Under contract in 4 days, closed in September for $303,000. Not bad, right? So total gross amount is $140,000, and then you subtract your expenses out, your renovation costs, your holding costs, and your profit. So just keep in mind, if someone does this for a living, they already have resources where they can buy supplies in bulk. They can, in their head, figure out, because they know the area, how much it's going to take to renovate this home and how much they can sell it for, right? And they have their renovations costs down to penny. So probably for these homes, it would take them maybe $40,000 to $50,000 to renovate. I will be guessing here, but they would know exactly. And then let's say, they can gross net $50,000 from the sale of each home. They feel that this is a good gain, right? So this is what I found for you in a hot market where there were not enough homes for regular retail buyers to find homes. A couple investors are actually buying and doing this on a regular basis. So I wanted to thank you for coming today and talking with me. I have some other ideas and some other upcoming workshops that you can see on the link. If you're looking for some coupons and websites and recommendations for renovations and so forth, I'm happy to share. If you would like to get an invitation to a meeting at Diversified Investors Group, I am more than happy to share as well. So this is what my presentation is about today. Now I invite you to ask your questions and or suggestions or comments. Anyone else has anything that they would like to ask questions about?